Hello, and welcome back to Kim Reads as we continue with Addy Learns a Lesson. Chapter 3, Tested. The next morning, Addy's heart beat quickly when Miss Dunn announced the new seat assignments. Addy Walker, you'll share a desk with Harriet Davis, she said. Addy and Sarah looked at each other, and then Sarah blurted out, Miss Dunn, can Addy stay with me? I've been helping her. No, Sarah, I want Addy to sit near the front of the room. Clara Johnson will be your new desk partner. You can help her, Miss Dunn replied. Addy rose quickly. She glanced back at Sarah as Clara slid into the seat next to her. Addy went to her new seat. She sat next to Harriet and smiled. Harriet did not smile back. Harriet had light brown skin and she wore her hair loose. She was wearing the most beautiful yellow dress Addy had ever seen. It was light yellow with rows of lace. Addy realized this must be the girl Sarah had told her about. Do you know the alphabet? Harriet asked. She had a thin, high voice. I'm just learning it, Addy answered. Sarah was teaching me. A quick frown crossed Harriet's face. Sarah, she said. Sarah can hardly read herself. I'll help you. I taught myself to read when I was 4. Miss Dunn put you with me because I'm the smartest one in the class. Sarah's smart too, Addy responded. Harriet ignored her comment. I'm named after Harriet Tubman. She helped run the Underground Railroad. You probably didn't know that. I know plenty of things like that. Now that Miss Dunn put you with me, I can teach you some things. At lunch, Sarah asked, how do you like sitting with Harriet? She real smart, and she got fine clothes, just like you said. I wish I had a dress as pretty as the one she has on. You know how much one of them fancy dresses costs? Sarah asked. How much? Addy asked. More than my mama and papa can make in a whole month. Sarah answered. Your mama can't afford to make you a dress like that, Addy. Addy's eyes opened wide. She had no idea one dress could cost so much. Maybe my mama can find a way, she said. Harriet's mama could afford it. I'm sick of talking about Harriet, Sarah snapped. Addy was surprised by Sarah's reaction. What's the matter? Don't you like her? That ain't it, Sarah said, letting out a sigh. Addy, Harriet don't like me. She all stuck up. She thinks she better than other people. If your family ain't got no money, she don't like you. And you know my family poor. But Harriet was nice to me, Addy protested, and she knows my family's poor. Listen, Addy, she was only nice 'cause Miss Dunn told her to be, Sarah said firmly. Harriet don't have no poor girls like us for her friends. She gonna try to make you her slave. She tried with me when I came to school last year, but I wouldn't let her. That's why she don't like me. She gonna hurt you like she hurt me last year. Well, maybe Harriet changed from when you came up here, Addy said. Harriet ain't gonna hurt me. She says she got plenty to teach me, and I got plenty to learn. As the weeks passed, Addy's fascination with Harriet grew. Every day, Harriet wore a beautiful dress. Each one seemed brand new, and schoolwork came so easily to Harriet. She was always the first one to finish her lesson, so she had time to look at Addy's slate and point out Addy's mistakes. Sometimes Addy didn't understand the corrections Harriet made. The questions seemed to annoy Harriet, so Addy saved her questions to ask Sarah at lunchtime or when they walked home from school. Addy worked very hard, and so when she was discouraged about her first spelling test, out of the 20 words on the test, Addy spelled 12 wrong. When Miss Dunn handed back Addy's test at the end of the day, she was encouraging. Look how many words you got right, Addy. If you keep learning this fast, you'll be one of the best spellers in the class. Maybe your mother could help you with the words you missed. Yes, ma'am, Addy said softly. She didn't want to tell Miss Dunn that Mama couldn't read or write. She didn't want Harriet to overhear her say it. When Addie and Sarah were walking home after school, Addie said, I ain't never going to catch up. Younger girls can read and spell better than me. Maybe it's too late for me to learn. It's never too late, said Sarah. You can't know everything at once. Learning goes slow. I didn't do so good on the last test either. I should have studied harder. I studied hard and I still didn't do good. Addie said, How many did you get right? How many did you get right? Sarah asked. I asked first, Addie said. Sarah said, Well, I got them all wrong because I didn't study at all. My papa can't hardly find work, so Mama and me have been taking in extra washing. Sometimes I ain't got time to do my lessons. Maybe we can do our lessons together sometime, Addie said. I'd like that, Sarah said, sounding more cheerful. Sarah left Addie on the door of Mrs. Ford's shops, and Addie stepped inside. As she headed toward the stairs, she saw Mom sitting in the back of the shop. She was crying. Mama, what's the matter? Addie asked. Mama dried her tears on the sleeve of her dress. You can come in, Addie, she said. Mrs. Ford ain't here. She went out and left these packages for me to deliver. She wrote down the addresses on this here paper. I ain't dare tell her I can't read. She gonna be coming back soon, expecting to see these packages gone. But I don't know where to take them. Okay, one thing I gotta say is Mrs. Ford knows she's a former slave, so I'm not really sure what makes her think she can read. I mean, just a thought. Okay. I can take them, Addie said. She looked at the address, but her heart sank when she realized she could only read one of them. Then an idea came to her. Mama, Sarah can help. She can read better than me. And she knows her way around Philadelphia. Mama looked doubtful. Mama, let me catch up with Sarah. It's the only way. Addie begged. All right, Mama said after a moment, but y'all be extra careful. Addie grabbed the packages and paper and started running. She caught up with Sarah a few blocks away and explained the problem. Sarah studied the paper for a moment, and she said, I know where these streets is. Let's go. She hurried through the busy streets with Addie rushing beside her. Sarah pointed to the street signs and read the names out loud for Addie. She showed how the numbers on the houses went in order. After they delivered the last package, the girls went back to the shop. As they walked to the door, Mom threw her arms around them. Sarah, you've been a big help. I don't know what we'd do without you, she said. Just then, Mrs. Ford returned. When she saw Addie and Sarah, she said, What's going on here, Mrs. Walker? This is a place of business, you know. Yes, ma'am. These girls were just leaving, Mama said quickly. She squeezed Sarah's hand to thank her again. Sarah headed home, and Addie hurried up the stairs to the garret. That evening, as Mama was cooking supper, she sounded worried. I ain't got a right to this job because I ain't been honest with Mrs. Ford. I gotta learn to read or find something else to do. Mama, I can teach her how to read, Addie exclaimed. Mama shook her head. I think it's too late for me. Sarah said it ain't never too late, said Addie. She took out her spelling paper out of her satchel. I got most of them wrong, she said, showing the paper to Mama. But Miss Dunn say if you help me, I could be one of the best spellers at the school. But I don't know how to help you, Addie, Mama replied. I don't know the letters. I can teach them to you, Addie answered. I'll get practice from helping with you. Mama's eyes looked for a moment at the cowrie shell hanging around Addie's neck. Mama had given Addie the shell when they were escaping the plantation. It came from Addie's great-great-grandmother, who had been captured in Africa and brought to America as a slave. All right, Addie, I'll try. Our family done faced tougher things than this. Ain't no change coming overnight, but by and by, maybe we'll both learn. Addie smiled at Mama. Let's have our first lesson tonight. As the weeks passed and it started to get cool, Mama kept a small fire in the stove in the evening. Sometimes when they made bread or meat pies for supper, Addie showed Mama how to spell words by forming letters with scraps of leftover dough. Mama loved to write Sam, Papa, and Esther. Seeing their names makes me feel closer to them, she said. After they ate, they went over to Addy's lessons. Addy taught Mama how to count, showing Mama that she had learned on the abacus at school by using beans on the table. Every day, Addy and Sarah went back and forth to school together, sometimes stopping to pick up colorful leaves or smooth chestnuts that fell from the trees. Sarah taught Addy how to read the names on street signs and shops as they walked along. One brisk morning, as they passed by a grocery store, Addy stopped to read the sign. Wilson Brothers Grocery. Eggs, 48 cents a dozen. That's right, Sarah said. You're getting to be real smart. You've been a good teacher, Addy said, smiling at her friend. But you and me, not as smart as Harriet. You should see her papers. All 100. She already doing multiplications. Sarah didn't say anything. She turned her head to look at a shop window. Did you see the blue dress Harriet had on yesterday? Addy sighed. It was so pretty. I never had seen her in it before. She must have 10 or 15 dresses. Let's talk about something else, Sarah cut in. I don't like talking about her or even thinking about her. But Addy liked thinking about Harriet. Harriet had everything that Addy had dreamed freedom would bring her. Harriet had fancy dresses. Harriet was smart. Harriet was sure of herself. When they were in their desk together, Harriet helped Addy with her schoolwork, but Harriet never invited Addy to be part of her group. Harriet had many friends. Her friends wore fancy dresses and matching hair ribbons. They buzzed around Harriet as if she were Queen Bee. They ate lunch together and played at recess. Addy and Sarah walked home the same way Harriet and her friends did, but Addy and Sarah were never asked to join them. One day, at the end of October, Harriet and her friends were walking home just ahead of Addy and Sarah. Addy started walking faster. What are you hurrying up for? Sarah asked sharply. Addy whispered back, let's catch up with them. You can if you want, Sarah answered, but I ain't going to walk with them. Oh, come on, we all go in the same way, Addy said softly, catching hold of Sarah's arm. I said I ain't walking with them, Sarah repeated loudly. Harriet stopped and turned around. I heard you, Sarah, she said. Nobody asked you to walk with us. Harriet smiled a cool smile at Addy. But you can come with us if you want, Addy. Addy got a warm, excited feeling. She turned to look at Sarah, but Sarah wouldn't look at her. Sarah looked down at her scuffed boots. Addy didn't know what to do. She knew she would hurt Sarah if she went with Harriet. Sarah isn't the boss of you, Harriet said in a loud voice as Addy hesitated. You can walk with us whenever you want, Addy. It's your decision. Harriet gave Sarah a nasty look, and then she and her friends disappeared around the corner. And that's the end of that chapter. See you later.